celebrate the birth of our nation. Ours is a nation in which we enjoy many freedoms due to the courage, determination, the vision, the sacrifices of men and women yesterday and today. One of the freedoms that is most sacred to me as an American and as a Presbyterian minister is the freedom of religion. The freedom of every American to choose their religion and the God they will worship, and to have that choice respected is one of the greatest gifts our founding fathers and mothers have given to us. It is a great and important gift, for it is made possible for all Americans to experience a special unity amid our religious, cultural, and racial differences. In a brief illustration entitled, "It's Good to Be in America," Barry Densa, who is Jewish and a proud American, writes an experience he had one morning during a Jewish worship service. Densa writes, "Last fall I went to my neighborhood Christian church so I could participate in the Jewish Yom Kippur. No, that's not a typographical error, and yes, it is rather unconventional. Our rabbi in front of me up in the pulpit was standing beneath a 2-story cross. I have to admit, it felt as a Jew a bit strange or awkward to sit in the church's pews surrounded by Christian symbols. But there I was, sitting in a Christian church, because my synagogue down the street was in the middle of a renovation, and this Christian church had been kind enough to lend our congregation the use of its facility. Naturally, our rabbi, sensing the feeling of uncertainty amid our congregation about where we were gathered for Yom Kippur, immediately addressed that issue, stating, "It's perfectly all right for a Jew to pray in a Christian church, as long as it's not habit-forming." Said Densa, "The open arms of the church's congregation is welcome, strengthened my faith in the warmth and openness of humankind." And I thought to myself, yes, indeed, it's good to live in a neighborhood called America. Friends, the freedom of religion, when embraced, enables Christians to see Jews as brothers and sisters who share a neighborhood. As you know, freedom of religion was at the very beginning of the founding of our country. Indeed, our nation's first president, George Washington, in May of 1789, in a letter to the national leaders of the Baptist Church, wrote, "Every person conducting himself as a good citizen and being accountable to God alone for his religious opinions ought to be protected in worshiping God according to the dictates of his own conscience." And just a year later, George Washington wrote to the Jewish congregation in Newport, Rhode Island, saying, "America gives bigotry no sanction and favors no religion over another." General Ulysses S. Grant, 18th President of the United States, in a speech to military veterans in Des Moines, Iowa, in 1875, said, "Let us labor for the security of free thought, free speech, and unfettered religious sentiments. Keep church and state forever separate." Friends, our Presbyterian denomination has said a loud amen to that founding principle ever since. For we Presbyterians remember that the founding fathers, including Thomas Jefferson, wanted to form a new nation where a specific belief in God was not forced upon people. Jefferson himself was accused of being an atheist because he didn't believe in the concept of the government sanctioning a church every American must pledge allegiance to. Jefferson summed up very bluntly his view that no person harmed anyone else in choosing and practicing his own religion or no religion. Said Jefferson, "It does me no injury for my neighbor to say that there are 20 gods or no God. It neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg." Friends, as many of you know, Thomas Jefferson died on the 4th of July, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Earlier, Jefferson had told his family what he wanted to be on his gravestone. Those things he viewed as his proudest accomplishments: the founding of the University of Virginia, authorship of the Declaration of Independence, and authorship of the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. Friends, because of Thomas Jefferson's determination to promote, preserve, and defend religious freedom, we have the ability to experience that America truly is a neighborhood, a community of understanding, toleration, and mutual respect. Speaking of neighborhoods, which show unity amid diversity, from our second lesson in Luke, we hear evidence of what a street in Nazareth, Bethlehem, or for that matter, Pismo Beach would be like if Rabbi Jesus moved in as a new neighbor. Considering what we know about Jesus from Luke and the other Gospels, what we can imagine would be pretty accurate to what would have taken place if Jesus moved in down the street. Thus, with the Gospels in mind, I imagine that the poor people in Jesus' new neighborhood would have soon been moved and inspired by this new resident Jesus' kindness and compassion. For while most people ignored or avoided them because they had so little, this new neighbor, Jesus, after he moved in, invited even the poor neighbors over for a meal, or a glass of wine, or just fellowship to talk about how things were in your family, and what he and his disciples might do to help. I imagine a poor man standing in his yard, having just met his new neighbor Jesus, saying to his wife moments after Jesus left after a short visit, "Did you notice the look in his eyes when he spoke to us? I've never felt so accepted by a total stranger." This new neighbor, Jesus. The blind man on the street, too, was deeply moved by the time and care Jesus took to learn his name and to hear his story. No one had done that before. Not quite like this Jesus did. And for the first time in a long time, though he was still physically blind, a light of love and hope now arose so powerfully within him, such that it almost felt as if he could see, such that it no longer seemed to matter as much. He was reborn. My God, he was smiling ear to ear. The Samaritan family, way at the end of the block, isolated by themselves, at first were nervous about the new rabbi who had just moved in. Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. But Jesus surprised them when he walked right up to their front door and introduced himself. They were also shocked when Jesus pointed out the broken latch on their gate and said that he could fix it for them. "I've done a little carpentry," he said. The husband said to his wife after Jesus left, "Did he say no charge?" What sort of man is this, they thought to themselves, as Jesus looked back and threw them a wave as he walked down the road. From the Gospels we know that Jesus' love had the power to do that, to take poor or blind or captive or oppressed people from darkness to light, from despair to hope, from captivity to freedom. No, the neighborhood was never the same after this Jesus moved in. Now there was more conversation, more smiles and greetings among the neighbors, more compassion for each other, even more laughter. And they were changing because of Jesus. Soon they would do anything for him and for each other. Friends, I want to close with the true story of a person who, one 4th of July weekend, reflected back on the years of his life with tremendous gratitude. Gratitude for the amazing neighbors whose friendship had blessed him during the journey of his life. He realized that they were the kind kind of neighbors a person can make in America. A nation committed to freedom of religion and respect for people's differences. As I tell his story, think of the neighbors who have blessed your life in days gone by, or who bless your life right now. Those folks just down the street or around the corner, your neighbors. The man's memories included when he was a boy of 12 and a new family moved in next door. They had 3 daughters around his age. 3 girls, the boy thought. Will they like me? He soon noticed there was more laughter and happiness on the street, for the girls were often outside playing, and they were very friendly to young and old, to girls and boys alike. The father of the new family wore a small round flat hat that the boy had never seen on a grown man. And the boy's dad said that was because it was a sign of respect for God in the Jewish tradition. They were Jewish. And the boy, thinking of a recent Sunday school lesson, exclaimed excitedly, "They're Jewish like Jesus?" "Yes," his dad replied, "just like Jesus." The boy knew his own family was Christian, and in the weeks and months ahead, he observed the 2 dads, his dad and the 3 girls' dad, becoming fast friends. And soon the families occasionally had dinner together. Even though they went off and separated to synagogue or to church, they always came back together as neighbors. And it happened in America. The boy's dad taught his son that no matter what he heard other people say, Jews and Christians were part of one large family of God. Here were 2 American families of different religions living in peace and friendship side by side. Then the man thought back to when he was a young adult in the prime of his life. Every day an adventure. He met an African-American young man in graduate school. They became fast friends and neighbors on campus. Soon after that, they not only were neighbors, they were roommates. And to this day, the friendship they enjoy is to each of them a priceless gift. When he was a man in his 50s, he became neighbors with a Muslim family. The Muslim father taught at the local college. His 2 daughters in their 20s excelled in school. One of the daughters formed a bond of friendship with the man, which surpassed the differences between them due to age, religion, and gender. Today, when they run into each other and finish a conversation, which always includes good wishes, they part ways saying, "Inshallah," a Muslim term which means God willing. Yet, the Christian man always says to his Muslim friend, whether he's saying goodbye in person or sending her an email, something like, "See you down the road of life, inshallah." Neighbors. And finally, it was in that same period of the man's life that a new neighbor moved in to his neighborhood who was gay. He didn't move in across the street. He moved into the neighborhood of his heart. The man accepted the sexuality of his new friend, and they too forged a bond based on mutual respect and understanding. How blessed I am to have a neighbor who's so funny, wise, and compassionate, the man felt about his gay neighbor. And he wondered how homophobia can still be so strong in the church and society. The man and his gay friend also shared a desire to worship God and to pray for justice and peace in the world, which gave them a brotherhood he would always cherish, especially after his gay friend's untimely death. On 4th of July weekend, 2016, the man thought to himself, being an American has helped me have the most wonderfully amazing and diverse neighbors. Yes, because of the principle of religious freedom and racial harmony, and justice for all he was raised within his family, and which is a guiding ethic in his country and his church. This man's amazing neighbors had included a loving Jewish family named the Milsteins, with 3 girls. An African-American graduate school roommate named David Sharp. A Muslim woman named Naira Kokala. And a gay man named Will Madison, whose sense of humor and friendship made attending church a pleasure and reinforced his view that homophobia is not only un-American, it is un-Christian. Yes, that man who had all those amazing neighbors was me. And I'm proud to be an American. And I'm thankful to be a Presbyterian because we prize freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to have opinions that differ, freedom to come together. Some of those neighbors I thought of this holiday weekend live literally across the street from me or down the hall. Others, like Will Madison, were part of the limitless, borderless neighborhood rooted in love that God has created in my life. I have been blessed with the most amazing neighbors. And the thing about neighbors, even when you move away, they go with you. Such an inspiring neighborhood of diverse people, such a neighborhood that I've been blessed by, exists in your heart as well. Friends, you take with you, as you travel down every road of life you dare to venture in this amazing neighborhood called America. Thanks be to God.